Cindy Roberts coming in. She had conversations with the Inspector General, Joe Ferguson, and she agreed to not do pattern and practice investigations, even though we directly wrote it into the legislation that COPA would have that power. And they'd entered into some agreement that just would leave that power with the Inspector General's office and the office of the Deputy Public Safety Inspector General. So I just wanted to say that because I wanted that out for people to know, because we were very bothered by it. I mean, the Chicago Coalition for Police Accountability was very unhappy with that. We thought, and I think if they wanted to cooperate in that investigation, that would be fine. But it would seem to me that COPA would want to use that data they would uncover in those to help inform their investigations on individual complaints against officers. So I just want your feeling. Why do you think it's important for COPA to have that or use that power that they have?
Well, first of all, like, if that's actually true, what you said, I'm appalled by that, because I fought really hard to get that power for COPA because I felt it was really important. And the reason why I felt that was really important is, as the chief administrator of IPRA, there were definitely times where I saw the same kind of case, the same kind of misconduct happening over and over and over again, and felt that COPA needed a way to be able to address that kind of repeated kind of misconduct, to find a way to investigate it and then come up with recommendations on how to do it. And the reason why I think that, the COPA should be able to do it is, yes, the Inspector General can do audits and review programs, but they have their own agenda. And so I felt that the COPA chief should have the power to identify these common themes that they're seeing, and to have the power to investigate and make recommendations, because that might be a priority that the COPA chief has that's not as important to the Inspector General, right? Because they have their own mission and their own priorities. And so, in the op-ed that I wrote, I specifically said there's an opportunity for COPA to conduct a pattern and practice investigation of how the department handled the protests, looking at how the department used force, which is within COPA's jurisdiction, and then policed whether or not they adhered to their own policies about how to police demonstrations, when their First Amendment issues. And so I think that is something that's within COPA's jurisdiction and they could do. Now, subsequent to that, we know that the independent monitor is going to be conducting their own investigation. So maybe will be the sufficient way to have this done, that COPA doesn't need to do it because the monitor is going to be looking at it. But it's certainly within COPA's jurisdiction to do that if they so chose. And so I feel like it's a power that they should have.
Okay, let me ask you, since we're on this topic, I have always thought that these pattern and practice type investigations should help inform future investigations of similar conduct. And I'm not exactly sure how, but it would seem to me that if you find a particular type of misconduct around a special team, like, I guess there's talk about putting more citywide, but sort of community policing, sort of enforcement, roving units back together. But when there was SOS, the Special Operations Section, or the Targeted Response Unit, or the Deployment Operations Centers, it would seem to me that after 7 or 8 complaints from the same unit as they're roving across the city of the same type of misconduct, whatever that be, misuse of the baton, whatever it would be, and it's all consistent, and then you do an investigation to prove that, and then when you get complaint 10, 12, 14, 18, and 20, that type of pattern and practice should help inform your findings when you're in the future solitary investigations of that misconduct. What do you think of that idea? Am I missing something?
Yeah, well, I think that you're right in that, if you've conducted a pattern and practice investigation, you're going to learn a lot of things, right? You're going to learn facts that may be relevant to a specific case that you find later, such as whether or not the officer was aware that he was not supposed to do that, or connections between officers that exist that are being denied in a case that you see later. So there's lots of sources of sort of information of evidentiary value that could come from that kind of investigation that might be helpful in a future inquiry. So I see the value of